On this episode of ResiWeek, Best Buy cuts jobs, there are massive chip shortages, and a huge ISC update. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 265, Chip Shortage.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks.
Welcome to this episode of Resi. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, for AVNation.tv. And this week, we're pleased to be joined by three of my best friends in the business. First, we have Mr. Giles Sutton. He is the co-CEO at Cedia. How you doing, Giles?
Doing really well, Matt. Thanks ever so much for inviting me back.
Oh, thank you for being here. Then we have Jimmy Paskey. He is in charge of residential sales for Surgex. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, man, doing wonderful, and it feels good to be back here.
It's been a minute. I'm so glad you're back. And last but certainly not least, we have my good friend, Mitchell Klein. He is the executive director at the Z-Wave Alliance. How are you, sir?
I'm fabulous and always happy to be here with you and your team.
So glad you're back, my friend. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to cover today. It's been a busy weekend. Oddly enough, you wouldn't think so in the end of February, but here we are. Coming to us from CE Pro, Best Buy's Q4 revenues are up 12.5%, but they're going to cut 5,000 jobs and close a few couple stores or a few hundred stores, depending how you look at it. This is in addition to the story that came out late last week that Fry's suddenly closed down as well. So you're obviously seeing that side. On the Best Buy side, what's interesting to me is that online sales made up 43% of all their sales last year. And they were saying that a large percentage of their revenue was coming from a very small percentage of their stores. Giles, let me start with you. To me, this is somewhat expected. I did not expect to see them list such a large number of stores that they are looking at closing. But the layoffs do not surprise me. They've already laid off something just over 100,000 people over 2020 due to, again, just stores being closed. Do you see these numbers as what to be expected, or are they hit a little bit harder than you would have thought?
There's something a little bit unexpected when I read it. I guess what is also interesting is that while they did lay off 5,000 employees, they also recruited 2,000 part-time employees as well. Mm-hmm. That was in the article. And when you read the really very, very positive sales figures, it is interesting that they're making this move. And I understand it is across the organization. It's not just retail staff that are affected by this. What is interesting as I look at it and how it affects our industry is, as they are predicting, even though they've had stellar sales in the past 12 months, they are predicting that actually dropping or at least leveling. So what I'm wondering is this sort of pointing us in the direction that that we've seen a lot of a surge in sales because people are working from home and that there's that real focus on the home? Are we seeing that perhaps as people start to return to offices with the rollout of the vaccine right now, that actually that whole sort of bell curve is starting to level off a little bit? And that's the only thing that I'm just keeping my eye on, how that maybe affects our industry. Is this sort of a way things are going to be moving from now forward?
Well, and that's a good point, because there is also that market saturation point, right? As everyone transitioned to home, there was that massive uptake that integrators and retailers, across the globe, but especially in North America, they went out and bought networking gear and outfitted their offices. You don't have to upgrade that necessarily quickly once you've done that once. So that might be part of it. Jimmy, to that point, they're projecting a -2 to a +1% for sales growth over the next 12 months. Typically, we can kind of use the Best Buy projections as a barometer for what's happening in the residential space from the CI side. Obviously, there are clients that are just Best Buy clients, and there are clients that are never Best Buy clients and just our clients, but it's usually a good predictor. Does this number concern you? Is this kind of what you're expecting to see? Do you think there's a correlation there?
I think it's a good gauge, but I guess it depends on where at in the CDA channel you're doing your business as an integrator or as a vendor. And I think I hang around folks that are maybe in the upper stratosphere. Barco, Meridian,
Mm-hmm.
Access Networks is doing really well, and they don't see a slowdown this year. Neither do Barco, Meridian. We're all checking each other on pipelines. How's your activity for quoting? And since November, December, and right into January and all the way through February, the pipeline looks super solid, moving forward for the rest of the year. I found the interesting part about the Best Buy thing being the box moving that they intend to do.
Yeah.
I think that's somewhat funny, only because back in the day, 90s and the early 2000s, we used to refer to those big chains as box movers. And, now we got a whole new meaning to box mover, right? And I think they're smart to focus in on that strength, because that certainly is a strength, that hub and spoke approach. And I think what that will do for our business is just create more of that just in the nick of time need of product.
Yeah. Yeah, very
Yep.
good.
It's all about the logistics here, right? And they've got the network to do that.
Mitch, I've been saying since the start of this, when Best Buy shifted so quickly to not only phenomenal inventory control the last couple of months notwithstanding, but the manner in which Corey Berry shifted them into online and pickup delivery curbside, they were the model for this. Should we as a industry, should we be paying a little bit more attention to the way in which Best Buy has been addressing their clientele, their customer base, between their total tech support? They're kind of laying the framework.
Yeah, I think in some ways, don't get caught with inventory, though. Whatever you do, don't follow that model, okay? Please. But what Best Buy's been really, really good at is predicting where the next hot category is going to be. I look at when they're cutting employees and cutting staff, and you figure they're not going to be in the CD, DVD, game buying business much longer, if at all, right? Yeah. So that's not just the salespeople, that's the buyers, that's all the logistics, everything around that. And what they're targeting, if you read any article, they're targeting health and wellness. Yeah. How long have we been preaching that to our members? How long have we been saying that? Well, Best Buy is going to beat a lot of our members to it, but there's still time. So, yeah, I would look at that, and certainly not at moving the boxes per se.
Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.